Question number 1. In light of the most recent discussions involving change and long-term planning for the town, do you support revisions or additions to existing ordinances and documents, or a new approach altogether to give town government a more proactive stance as the town grows and develops? Okay, Ron, you're on.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think the only approach to this is to start with the comprehensive plan that exists and to push that comprehensive plan as far forward as you possibly can. One approach that you can take with something like the comprehensive plan in order to determine ordinances is to make sure that there is adequate input from the people in the town of Blue Hill. Now, what I found missing is that sort of communication between the selectmen and the town in terms of what things are really needed, wanted, where the friction is on particular issues. For example, an approach that I might take, given the fact that there's apt to be a disparate view on a couple of the different issues, is to take and have two different work groups working on their separate particular viewpoints. Have these people work out what they think the key points are, and then as a group work together to try to formulate ordinances and ways in which we can make the ordinance and the comprehensive plan functional. It's only by reaching in to the local people and embracing their input. This is not about top-down. This is about a method that actually works into using the local voice and understanding what people want. It takes a proactive approach. When I've worked for other organizations, we've done simple things, for example, like use internet surveys as a way to get a good sense as to what different people want and what the sense of the community is, getting a lot of issues out of the way that aren't necessary in terms of discussion. We can simplify it, get it down to the key issues, and then it becomes the hard work of refining those key issues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Jim, I'll give you this and half the next one.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the packet and Nat and Faith for bringing us all together, and thank all of you for being here. It's greatly appreciated. And this question is a good one. I want you to know that the role of the selectmen is to support, and my position would be to support a planning effort. I think we've had a recent one in 2006 that wasn't ratified, but it did a lot of the groundwork that would be useful in going forward. Also, the site plan review ordinance, which is another working document, is another ordinance and a document that should be addressed. And the job of the selectmen, I believe, is to support the planning board in their efforts to take this task on, both in terms of the planning effort and the amending of the site plan review ordinance. There's no question that the growth that's coming to us and will come in the future warrants an examination of our land use and what would be the best things for the town of Blue Hill and the people in it. We have to think we have to honor some of the thoughts that have gotten us to where we are now and predict where we might go if a plan were to go in place, or be put in place. My experience has been that there's always resistance to a plan because it's a one-size-fits-all approach most often. So I think we've learned from that we can approach this effort, picking out some of the things where there's greatest consensus, attack that, make plans in those categories and areas, and then go from there. And I think before you know it, we would have an effective planning effort.
Okay, Jim, well, that's fine. Thank you very much. Worked out very well. Okay, would you candidates like to have my repeat the question, or you're all set? Okay. Okay, we'll go Randy and then right down the table. Randy, you're on.
Over the last few years, or 10, 15 years, I work some for my boss in Kittery, Maine, and you can see the population climbing like a wildfire coming up the coast. And I knew eventually in Blue Hill, we'll see a lot of changes. We can't just sit back and be in the hustle and bustle days. We need to accommodate what people we have, and like Kittery is almost double the population in the 10, 15 years I've known there. So a thing like this is a good thing to see what the people think about a big situation and get everyone involved. And push the selectmen, just 3 people, but they try to get out and see everybody and see how they feel. So it's a big job for just 3 guys, hotels. And so that's all I have to say about it for now until I learn more about what's going on with the books and stuff.
Okay. Ellen?
Obviously, it's a huge question, and I'll try to be less than 3 minutes on it. But
You have a little bit of extra time, because she spoke a little less. You'll get a little flip.
I guess everybody talks about the comprehensive plan we had in 2006. The people who worked on that did an incredible job, put in a ton of energy, and really tried to get input from everyone. And I think it was, largely the victim of, unfortunately, an unaccountable plan imposed on by the state that really didn't fit us, and that caused the backlash against it and the failure. And that was a tragedy because it really did put people against the idea of planning. And I think we've seen some of the unfortunate parts that happened after you had no planning since then. But also the other part of it is that you have to be incredibly sensitive when you're doing planning. I saw that we're talking about putting a straw question before the town meeting about historic planning, for instance, and to put something like that out without a huge amount of work and looking at how other towns deal with it and trying to make it fit Blue Hill in a way that will allow Blue Hill to grow and keep up with the times, yet retain the charm and beauty and feeling of community that it has had throughout the past and what certainly drew me here. So I think that's something we really need to work on, but it's not a quick fix, and I don't think it's something that the planning board can take on and do. They have a job, and that is really to interpret and work on some of those rules, but it's a big job, and I think it's more than we can ask just one small board to do. I think we have to draw in a lot more people and try and have a bigger input from the community into it. I do think it's necessary, but I think it's something that has to be taken gradually and taken with everybody's input into it.
Okay. Next. You
Yes.
have a microphone there? Would you like to pass the microphone?
Well, can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Oh. I'll have to the rock star. Okay.
Excuse me, can everybody hear in the back okay, without the microphone? No.
No, this is a yes.
Oh, yes, okay, fine, thank you. Okay.
Interpreting the input from the community, positive or negative. The comprehensive plan 2006, as Ellen said, it does keep coming up. It raised a lot of hackles. It annoyed a lot of people for a lot of reasons that Ellen has already said. One of the flip side of that is that when you have no planning, then you also don't have anything to say about what happens. So yes, I think we need to be addressing the planning issue. Since I moved here in '74, the population has doubled. That's a big change for a small town. There's twice as many people here as there were in 1974, as far as I understand. So that means that change is coming willy-nilly, and we need to be thinking about how do we want to regulate that change. Does this town want to regulate the change? Does it not? Does it just want to let everything happen however it happens? That's what I think we need to find out. I know that I would like to see a lively downtown. I'd like to see some ideas about how is South Street and the Mines Road going to develop, but I'm also very, very respectful of people's concerns about protecting their property values. I think that was one of the rocks that the plan crashed on in 2006, and I think that we need to be very sensitive to that issue. I the select person's job is to support the planning board, absolutely, and also perhaps I would like to get input from the town and also from some professional people.
Okay, thank you. Vaughn, you're up next. We have a little extra than an hour last year.
Thank you for coming this evening. And the comprehensive plan did have a huge amount of work put into it, and anyone I've spoken to feels that the state level agenda is what made it fail. One thing about Blue Hill is you can't throw very much at them all at once. And in the planning board, we've been discussing the issues of amending the ordinances, which would be my choice for, Nat's question, whether you're changing them. And we decided that small changes would be easier to find out what people want in Blue Hill. And that's part of the reason we came up with 2 straw poll questions. Whether they're understandable or not on the ballot remains to be seen. But we was hoping to get a sense of what the people want, assuming there's going to be a large number of people at the voter turnout this year. And one of the suggestions or thoughts I had was, can we take the comprehensive plan, update the statistics in it as far as populations and schools, and start adding things in gradually and get them voted on 2 items at a time, or maybe 3, or do them individually. That way you know what people want, what they don't want. And it's a long time between 1990s when Rite Aid came and we had crowds like this at a hearing, and it's 20-some years later before a Dunkin' Donut come. And it seems like 2 weeks after these huge issues, everything goes all quiet and everybody carries on with their life. And, so we're going to be 10 years before there's another issue, 20, 2 years. Do we need to get ready? Yes, we do. And I agree, both sides have to figure out, what is going to work and how are we going to achieve that. Thank you.
Okay. Kathleen?
What he said. I'm sorry. I do agree with Bob on a lot of what he said. We shared the responsibility when the Rite Aid application was coming in to go through the town process. We found the ordinances lacking then and needing work. But I agree also, to answer your question, is that we need to do it gradually with concerned and careful input from everybody, as many people involved in the town as possible. The research and the statistics and the data that was collected on not 1, but 2 or now 3 revision attempts of the existing comprehensive plan. We do not have a plan. We have a plan. It's just out of date. And it needs work. It needs a lot of people to come together, to agree where the problems are, and to make something that works for the town of Blue Hill, not for the state of Maine or for Washington. And I think that the selectmen, it's their job to support the planning board's efforts, but as I think we agree, I've been on one of those boards, the planning board revisions, and it just takes a lot more than a lot of people think. Just gathering the data, assessing it, and coming up with recommendations is a whole other level, which we probably could use professional help with. But we want to be careful how we might use that it would be Blue Hill specific. We know costs and so forth before we go forward with that sort of thing.
Okay, that finishes question 1. Now go to question 2.